morning, Chicago Cubs fans, and we are back with another edition of Cubs Daily. My name is Steven Ryan, presented by Fan Arch. The Cubs take 2 of 3 from the Pirates. It wasn't pretty, it was very ugly, but wins are wins. We'll talk about that game. We'll break down some of the key moments for the Cubs in that game, and we'll talk about the massive opportunity ahead. Yes, possibly the biggest series of the year. I'm calling it the series of the year for this Chicago Cubs team. I know there's a lot more baseball to be played, but really good stacking test against the Milwaukee Brewers. But before we get into all that, just want to give everyone a big time shout out who continue to watch the videos. We appreciate your support. We're on the road to 1K. Appreciate every single one of you. Keep on liking, keep on sharing your thoughts. I love hearing everyone share their thoughts. I'll address some of the comments from yesterday's video. Not that they were bad or anything. I totally understand where you guys are coming from, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So, Cubs take the series from the Pirates. It was a 4-3 victory. It wasn't pretty, but the Cubs did do some things correctly. I thought the Cubs were trying to give away this game by bringing in Ben Brown, who did give up the go-ahead double to Joey Bart. It wasn't pretty, but Ben Brown, again, he didn't give up all too much. He gave us 3 innings. I think that's Ben Brown's role. I think he just needs to be kind of an innings eater, long reliever type guy. But, you know, again, we got the job done yesterday somehow, so we're cool with that. The runners in scoring position, this team actually did rather okay. Some other troubling news, you know, the Cubs fans booed Kyle Tucker. Curious to see how he reacts to that in this series against Milwaukee, right? The booing was understandable, right? He didn't hustle it down to first base. It wasn't pretty, but does he respond to it positively, like bouncing back with a big series against the Milwaukee Brewers, or does he even spiral down further down his ice-cold tub? I mean, I'm curious to see, but it definitely left a wrong taste in Cubs fans' mouth, no doubt about it. But I personally believe Kyle Tucker's a better player than what he's been playing like, but you know, it's tough when that's what you're seeing, right? That it's very, very tough when that is what you are watching on the field, especially for over a month. So, Cubs get the series. We have a big opportunity ahead, right? It's not about winning the division anymore. I've gotten that out of my mind. Best case scenario, we get a couple games up here on the Brewers, but more importantly, we kind of solidify our wild card standing, right? It's important to take 3 of 5 from the Brewers. You want to win the series. 3 of 5, 4 of 5 would be really, really ideal. I can't imagine this team sweeping them, but crazier things have happened, right? Crazier things have happened. I do remember in 2003, I think the Cubs were in a lot better position, though. They played the St. Louis Cardinals in a mid-August series for 5 games, and the Cubs took 4 or 5 from them, and it kind of like solidified the division race. So the Brewers have that opportunity at hand. If the Cubs could take 4 or 5, though, we can kind of crawl ourselves back into the picture a little bit of the division race and solidify our standing in the wild card. But the way this team has been playing as of late, it's hard for me to imagine them doing that. But like I said in yesterday's video, I said the Cubs were back on track. I understand that we want to see a bigger sample size per se, you know, more consistency before you say, yeah, you're back on track. But trains sit on tracks. That doesn't mean they go anywhere, right? Trains are always on tracks. That's how they move. I said the Cubs are back on the track. We haven't gone anywhere yet. I agree with everyone on that front. I don't think we're anywhere near to the level this team can play at, but I think we're back on track. We've won 2 in a row. We're building a little momentum. We're trying again. The Cubs needed, you know, not every victory is going to be sexy. I think we all know that in Cubs Nation. I think we all know as baseball fans, if you watch this game for long enough, all the wins will never be sexy. It's just not the way it works, right? So just winning ugly ball games that you kind of don't deserve to win kind of gives me a cue that you're fighting, that you got a little heart in you, that you got a little chance, which didn't seem to be the case with this Cubs team last week. So hopefully this team is starting to find it. They're hitting the ball harder. Unfortunately, it's been right at some people sometimes. But hopefully they can translate this into this series with Milwaukee and have a battle. Because the first game today is going to be Cade Horton versus Freddie Peralta at 120. So get your popcorn ready. They haven't announced the starters for tonight, but it's going to be a doozy. And this is a big opportunity right here for the Cubs, right? We can make our name for the playoff push. I'm not saying the division. I'm not saying the division. We're not eliminated from the division, though. But let's focus on winning series, winning ball games, keeping that train moving, right? Keeping that train moving. So, the Cubs yesterday did a very, very excellent job at something they haven't done good job at in a long time. Hitting with runners in scoring position, which is what they did. They were 3 for 8 with runners in scoring position. That is a fantastic that's above 300. That's a fantastic average, especially for how this Cubs team has been hitting. I did look at a stat though that said the Cubs were 8th in baseball with hitting with runners in scoring position, which if you would talk to a Cubs fan that just started watching this team maybe a few months ago, you'd be like, "Excuse me?" That's how sensationally good they were the first 2 months as a hitting ball club. So again, I've been saying this since this stretch has begun of kind of 500 ball. I think the Cubs are better than what they're playing like. I don't know if they're necessarily better than what they played like in April. But I think there's a level in between there that they can play at. And that team is good enough to make some noise in the playoffs. That much I will agree with on that front. But this stat right here, hitting with runners in scoring position, has to be a factor, right? I still saw it a couple times this weekend where runners on second and third with one out, and we can't get a run home. You know, we need to be able to find a way to get that one home. You need to nickel and dime your way to the top. That is how it works. That's what the Milwaukee Brewers do so well. Who, by the way, finally lost yesterday, but it wasn't after not a valiant effort by their ninth inning team. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they were down 1-0. They hit a 2-run homer in the ninth. Unfortunately, the Milwaukee Brewers didn't lose that game. The baseball gods humbled them that game. You know what I'm saying? They're like, you can't just do this again. Especially after the night before when it went to 11 innings and they had a big-time 3-run homer. Like, baseball's like, you gotta calm down on that one. You know what I'm saying? And again, they're a really good team. I'm not trying to take anything away from them on that front. All I'm saying is winning 15 games in a row in Major League Baseball doesn't happen all too often. That's more my point. So, big opportunity ahead. We need to pair this with the clutch hitting, and the Cubs could be making some noise here this week. I mean, all it takes is a couple of good weeks, ladies and gentlemen, and we're back in the division race. But more importantly, we've probably solidified our wild card standing going into September, which could be very, very critical. We need to have a home game at Wrigley Field for whoever we face. I mean, the way it's looking right now, it's either going to be the Dodgers or the Padres, whoever ends up not winning the West on that front. So this is the series of the year. This is going to be a playoff atmosphere in Wrigley. Every game matters, right? Every pitch matters. We will see how it all is going to play out. Like I said, game 1 is going to be Freddie Peralta versus Cade Horton. I'm not sure who they're going to throw game 2. It's probably going to be more of a bullpen game. I wouldn't be surprised if they threw out Ben Brown out there. Maybe, have they called up Jordan Wicks? There's still moves to be made. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a pitcher we haven't seen in a little bit, though. So I hope the Cubs aren't trying to just give away a game here, but I'm not sure who they're going to rock and roll with in that next game. And again, if we can get the first 2 tonight, let's get some momentum going, right? Let's get this momentum building back up. That'd be 4 games in 3 days we've won in a row. It's what you like to see. Again, back on track. But now, since we're back on track, in my opinion, I understand that's not everyone's opinion. That's okay. Let's get the train moving on the track, right? Let's get the train moving on the track, and hopefully the Cubs can do just that. But it all starts at 1:20 today. So if you're at work, put in the AirPod, get Pat and Ron on the radio, and let's have ourselves a day at baseball at Wrigley Field. I hope you all have a fantastic Monday. Again, appreciate every single one of you guys sharing your thoughts, comments, and concerns. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Peace.